How are you, sir? Very well. Good to see you.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us for our third budget workshop. This one is probably the longest one of the four. But the items that are new for this evening, we'll be talking about general education, technology, athletics, transportation, and employee benefits. I'll go over some of the items we discussed in the previous meetings. I'll try to do that a little quicker. After this meeting, we have the full budget review of revenues and expenditures on Wednesday, March 13th, and adoption at the Board of Education meeting on March 21st. The tax levy threshold, the CPI, it's the lower of 2% or CPI, being that the CPI was over 4%, that part of the calculation is kept at 2%. As I mentioned in previous presentations, our maximum allowable threshold, we do have a carryover from last year, being that we did not go all the way to the tax cap, giving us some unused tax levy for this year. So our tax cap for this coming year is 3.41%. And at the next meeting, I'll show the full calculation during the review meeting. The challenges, similar to last year, we're seeing increases in health insurance premiums, transportation costs, which both of those areas we'll look in a little more detail later on in the presentation. These are the budget strategies, long-range plans for everything, but specifically for capital. This is our recent voter authorization history. The capital reserves 1, 2, 3, and 4 have all been authorized and spent to date. The Capital Reserve 5 has a balance of, as of June, $4.9 million. As we go through, I'll discuss that after this slide. This is work coming up for this summer and going into the 24-25 school year. Ventilation, first floor, middle school, district-wide bathroom renovations, window replacements, second floor of Kaniag and middle school, the music classroom and high school renovation, and complete window replacement around the original part of the high school and middle school building, along with rooftop units, replacing about 12 in this building. We're still waiting for approval for the ventilation, bathroom, window replacements at Kaniag, and the music classroom renovation. The other two at the bottom, we already received approval, and actually the windows are just starting to come in, so we'll start replacing those for this area over the next couple weeks.
Can you discuss the two projects that are in the athletic area that don't show up on the budget, in the projects under the stands that are being put in, and then it said refurbish the...
Yeah, well, that's later on in the presentation.
Okay,
Right.
which projects are on there to get, I know they're, I think they're later, so you're gonna talk about them later?
Yeah, that's part of the athletic part of the presentation.
Okay.
All right, there's a whole slide on that. Right, John?
So I saw it.
Yeah, okay. The building and building condition survey, we're due to get that this coming year. As you've seen over the past several years, we have, for all of the buildings, various projects. The ones highlighted in yellow are the ones we're recommending for this coming proposition. As we do the building condition survey this year, which is required every 5 years, next year there will likely be more items on the list, because the last time it was reviewed in that type of detail was about 5 years ago.
I have one question
Yes.
about that. Can you just explain the difference between bathroom renovation phase 1 and 2?
It's just,
There's a big difference in cost also, so what was the difference? What happened in phase 1 versus phase 2?
where are you seeing the difference in cost?
No, I mean last year's budget.
Oh, yeah, so,
I'm sorry.
it's okay. So Jackson, Kaniag, and this building were split up into 2 phases only because of the size of the
Right.
project.
Yes.
And we try to do it as evenly as possible. Seaman, being that it's a smaller building, we're able to do that all in one phase. So the difference in price is depending on which bathrooms we're doing.
Amount of bathrooms that
Yeah.
we need? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, looking at all the buildings, district-wide with all of the buildings due to the flood we had in this building, We are going to be looking at district-wide pump plumbing upgrades and looking at all critical areas and tying in some automatic shut-off valves in certain areas. For Candiac, we're looking at bathroom renovation phase 2. For Jackson, the main part of this is the auditorium reconstruction of that auditorium and also phase 2 of the bathroom renovation. Seaman, as I said before, the bathroom was just one phase, which was approved last year. And this will be looking at the district-wide plumbing as well as some exterior doors. Williams, the only thing we're looking at there is the plumbing upgrades. And the high school, middle school, phase 2 of the bathroom renovations, along with replacing 2 of the small generators, and again, the district-wide plumbing upgrades. When you total it up, the bottom half is what we're recommending, a total of $5.7 million in projects. Some of that is budgeted in the general fund budget, $1,275,000, and the balance will come out of capital reserve 5, totaling 4.4 of the 4.9 that's in there. And this will be the proposition wording that will be shown on the ballot. Any questions on the capital?
Why don't the consent projects show up on the capital budget?
Because that we're doing out of the general fund, just out of like the B&G code, the buildings and ground code.
Isn't that the 1.275 bill that
No.
you're talking about?
Yeah.
That's a different code.
That's a different code.
Okay.
It's out of like the 1620, 1621. We did that at the first. Getting into the general ed portion of the presentation, the first thing we always look at is enrollment. Actual for this year is actual as of October, and projected for next year based on BOCES demography. Looking at staffing, right now we're looking at flat staffing at the elementary level. At this point, there could be a couple of sections lower, but we're still looking at pretty much flat year over year. And at this building, 7 through 12, we're looking at +1 in the research department.
You're reminding me what the cutoffs are for elementary school classes?
23.
It doesn't change, it's for the whole school, I thought it was.
It used to be split pre-COVID, I think it was 24 K2, 20, 27, 3-5. And now it's 23 K5.
And you think we're more likely to go down in terms of FTEs than up?
At this point, that's the way it's looking at, but of course, it depends.
Of course.
It depends on new entrants during the summer.
And the research position is science, is like a science?
Science research,
With, for the advanced science, so we're adding a position there.
correct.
Okay.
To work with Mrs. Walsh or separate?
Because we're seeing increased enrollment in that area, so we need additional staffing.
Well, just because Dr. Balachand mentioned, so Mrs. Walsh, is she the +1 or is she the base 1 and the +1 is someone else?
It would be 2 positions, so it would be Mrs. Walsh's current position +1.
Okay.
These are the general education staffing numbers. The big items obviously are salaries for teachers. You can see that in the first line. The first line is K through 6, and the way the state codes it, I know our buildings are K5, 6, 8, 9, 12, but the way they break it down for the state coding is K through 6 is the first line, and then the fourth line is secondary at 7 through 12. We did add dollars here in the textbook areas as well, percentage-wise relatively high, and then you'll see some reductions in supplies. There are some textbook adoptions that are coming up that were like 5-year textbooks, so we have to renew them.
From what I understood, we're starting to use textbooks less. Is that wrong, and so why would we see an increase?
This is also the online ones.
Oh, the purchasing stuff that's,
Yeah, so What they do now a lot, they'll give like one hard copy
Yes,
for the class, and then it's all digital.
right.
But that would fall under this code as well.
Okay, so we're still giving hard copies just as much as we were maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago?
No, it's
No.
for, to authorize use for it online.
Right, right, so.
We're getting, is it, it depends on the course. Helene, is it, you're getting like a class set and then the rest is digital?
Often we'll have a class set, sometimes we're only, we have courses that were all digital.
All digital.
Mhm.
Right, so my question was, I feel like more and more classes are going more digital, and so I would expect it would appear that the number's gonna go down, but I guess not.
No, no,
It's more because the digital.
We're buying the digital ones through this code.
I understand,
Yeah.
okay.
You said the cost of the digital you thought would be lower than the cost of the
Yeah,
printed?
of
No.
course, because it's still.
I mean, that's my recommendation.
That hasn't happened.
No, I think
They smartened up on that.
The print and ship a heavy textbook is.
Yeah, they do it per student,
Okay.
so it's just as much as buying a physical textbook. Any other questions on this slide?
How many retirees do we have?
I think,
From these instructional salaries?
I think we're close to 12.
Yeah.
Give or take, Sam?
Thank you.
Instructional equipment, I increased the district-wide equipment to do a couple of projects, partially in music and fine arts, looking at some new filing system for the sheet music and a few other areas. Contractual services, these are kind of the descriptions of the codes that you're going to see on the next slide. And overall, it's flat year over year. Instructional supplies, this is the code that we decreased a bit in order to cover the increases in the textbooks. Career education, this is all through BOCES, so we have some students that go to the Long Island School for the Arts and other categories in career education, and that's the budget for that for next year. And now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Fogarty to talk about technology.
Thank you very much, Victor. Thanks to everyone for being here. I want to talk to you a little bit about what we've done the last year regarding technology and what we're going to be doing next year. First things first, that is our tech staff during our annual holiday lunch. We all get together once a year, go out and have a nice lunch together, so we take our picture then. Everyone's still with us. We keep our team together pretty well year over year. What's new this year? We've increased our reliance on data analytics using some newly implemented software, which I'll get into details about a little later. Specifically, Analytics Plus by ClassLink is helping us drive decision-making by giving us a sense of usage levels and efficacy for our software platforms. Cybersecurity, always a focus, continues to be a focus, and will forever be a focus. We've rolled out ParentSquare across the district, as many of you are aware. Provides a safe and secure messaging platform for parents and Jericho staff. And as you guys know, this is not a choice that we made. Well, I guess we partially made it because we're going with it as soon as we can. But computer-based testing replacing virtually all paper-based tests over the next 18 months. So be very little in the way of paper-based testing going forward.
You're talking about for standardized tests, not
Yeah, not for us. Yeah, no, standardized. But it's still a pretty significant shift because it means additional devices, additional, you just have to keep a lot of things in mind if you're testing everybody digitally now. It changes the game a bit. So what's new? Well, one of the biggest things that's new, and hopefully you were here a couple months ago when I talked about it, but I'll briefly touch on it now. AI has developed to the point where we've decided to integrate it into some of our classrooms, many of our classrooms. We have an AI committee that consists of teachers, parents, and administrators, and they're shaping the district's position. Beyond that, I put together an AI consortium of districts across New York State. We have about 21 members now. We meet every month to discuss best practices in artificial intelligence and integration into schools. And it's New York only because we're all obligated to adhere to Ed Law 2D. So it doesn't really make sense to do that with groups who aren't obligated to adhere to the same standards we are. Our refresh cycle continues to ensure that Jericho students and teachers alike are always working with the latest technology. BOE members, you'll see a whole bunch of stuff coming in for disposition over the next few months. Those are mostly Chromebooks that are being disposed of because they are either too old or just simply not functional anymore. And we're purchasing a whole bunch more using our Smart Bond money, which we just cashed in to buy Chromebooks this year. We've implemented a lot of features. Security, as I said before, a big focus. We've implemented Spec Ops, which makes your password, no one can have the password Jericho1 anymore. If you do, please let me know so I can make you change it, but you shouldn't be able to. We've got software now that checks your password when you change it. We use something called Canary that tells us if anything in our environment is suspicious to us. So that's really important for us because it lets us know as soon as it detects a network intrusion before the intrusion has any time to do anything. We've relocated most district file shares to SharePoint. That's an ongoing process, which enhances our security posture. I've met with every PTA to talk about cybersecurity, data privacy, AI, and ParentSquare this year, and last year I did a lot of that as well. And if you're a PTA mom or dad and you'd like to have me come in and talk to your folks, I'd be really happy to do it. Or if you're a principal and you want me to do that, just let me know. Really happy to talk to folks about this. Another thing we just flipped the switch on this week is probably the coolest thing we've implemented in a while. It's a one-switch encryption of email. So what that means is you open up Outlook and you need to send something sensitive. Now we've redirected people through ParentSquare for the majority of sensitive things that have to go to more than one person. But if you have one thing to send to one individual, you open up Outlook and there's a button and it says General and contains PII. And if you click contains PII, your email is automatically encrypted and safe to send. So we're rolling that feature out right now for our clerical employees first, secretarial and clerical staff, and it will trickle down to everybody by end of year, which is a pretty, it's a prolonged timeline, but we're training everyone in groups because it takes a little bit of time. Yeah.
Does the person on the receiving end have to also be using Outlook? Or
What a great question. That's a great question. We were just testing that today, and no, they don't have to be using Outlook. It's great if they use Outlook and have a Microsoft account, then the email shows up like any other email, which is awesome. That's what we want. If you're using something like Gmail, it'll come up and say, you have a secure message that was sent to you from pfogarty@jerichoschools.org. Please click this to read the message. So 1,000 times, not 1,000 times, it's way more. Cryptographically, it's like 1,000,000 times more secure than anything we've ever done before. It's legitimately one of the best ways to close up a huge hole in our email system. One of the things that I was talking to somebody about this last week, and one of the things I said was that we're shifting away from asking the user to act, and instead we're trying to act before the user can, because we are all human and we are all going to make mistakes in things that it's just the way of the world, and expecting people not to do that, it's just not realistic. So what we're trying to do now is, you put PII in an email, you'll get a pop-up window that says, it appears that this email contains PII, would you like to encrypt it? And that's been rolled out for everyone. So if you put something like a social security number or something our system detects as a date of birth, it's going to prompt you and say, please don't send this without encrypting an email. A huge step forward. It's a little thing to you, but to me, it's one of the biggest steps forward we've ever taken as far as making people more secure and really being proactive about it. Every year the hardware stuff is pretty much the same. We replace a bunch of stuff. We replaced 200 desktops, 500 plus Chromebooks. As fewer iPads are required, you'll notice the purchasing numbers on those have gone way down. We're probably at a very low purchasing number for this past year. Yeah.
Do we still provide all the K through 2s with iPads?
We still provide K through 1s with iPads. It's really up to the building's decision at this point what they prefer. And I think now all the buildings have moved to second graders using Chromebooks. They do a lot more,
Is that why the iPad demand is not down simply because of that, or is there?
It's a few things. One, we used to do carts and Chromebooks. I'm sorry, iPads and Chromebooks on carts. And that's a really expensive proposition. So if you start moving the carts out and only provide them as needed, so if a CA or a principal says, hey, we need this cart, we'll try to make sure you have an iPad cart. But as far as like a refresh cycle, we used to be doing a refresh of like 1,500. That's not happening anymore. We're probably down to needing to refresh somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 or 500 a year. Well, not a year, excuse me, a 5-year cycle. And that'll continue to go down until, I don't know if it'll ever hit 0 because they still have a lot of great use cases, but it'll continue.
If we give every K through first grade an iPad, who are the carts for?
The carts will, well, sometimes you'll have a particular project that you need for, or a particular app. Lego is an example of one that it ran only on iPads for a long time, so you might have a cart of iPads for that. You might have one set aside for the library if they have a particular thing that they've been doing with the iPads, a particular app they've been using. You keep them mostly for push-ins and special events. So, software-wise, we talked about Parent Square, ClassLink Analytics. Another thing that's behind the scenes that I really like that doesn't really affect anybody, but it affects everybody, but no one notices. Conductor's portfolio is now rolled into PowerSchool entirely. So everything that you need as a parent can more or less be gleaned from Conductor's portfolio app. You won't even know it's called Portfolio, it's just built into PowerSchool. I think it's called Portfolio, it's probably called Portfolio in PowerSchool now.
And what, I'm sorry, what does it provide?
That's just all report cards, state assessments, NWA. I'm sure you know it, you just don't know the name of it because it's baked right into PowerSchool, so you don't really need to know the name. This slide, I just noticed when I was going through these earlier, this is kind of pre-state stuff I've already talked about, so I'm gonna jump to the next one.
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
On that, what is LLM stand?
Oh, large language model. So all of these AI tools, they build their data sets off, they're built on large language models, and their data sets are what they're trained on. So a large language model is just a program that ingests a whole bunch of data. We are launching the biggest hardware upgrade in our district's history very soon by adding drops and access points through E-rate. We won't be able to do as much as we would love to do because the pricing is very high right now for these sorts of projects. We're hoping they come down a bit, but we are going to be able to add a lot of extra drops and direct network connections, in the elementary schools. That's important because right now our elementary schools in some cases only have like 2 or 3 drops. A drop is a network connection. So you can plug a computer in, you can plug a phone in. We want you to be able to do more with that. And we're replacing even more Chromebooks and desktop PCs next year. We're also doing something, we're replacing Nutanix, which is a backup architecture. To explain exactly how it works would take a very long time, but Nutanix is a backup system that's secure. It ensures that all of your data is kept safe. As far as software goes, we're very excited to be transitioning to a new help desk and a new asset management system. This is something that's still in media res, we're in progress now, and we're almost there. We'll be launching Instant IQ hopefully this summer, and maybe even before that if we can. Now, the end user won't really experience a whole lot of change other than how they submit the tickets. But for us, it'll be a lot better. Parent Square has been rolled out, and we're expanding. Talking to John Mankiewicz, we decided to add Student Square, which we think is going to help the coaches, and we're really in the process of rolling it out for everyone. I think it's rolled out at this point for the entire district. AI software dominating a lot of, a little musical accompaniment, that's nice. AI software is dominating a lot of discussions in school districts right now. To that end, we've rolled out Chat for Schools. Our AI committee is meeting in 2 weeks. We're going to be taking a look at 2 other tools. One of them is called Merlin Mind, the other is Magic School. Magic School already in use in the district, but we want to test it out with our AI committee and talk a little bit more about it. We've secured some free trials of these products, so we'll be able to test them out this year, and if they're a go, we'll be able to include them in next year's budget. Yep.
I have one question.
Sure.
Since AI is so new to schools in general, but obviously to us, do we know how much all these AI softwares are costing us at this point?
Sure. $6,200.
$6,200. $6,200.
Full freight. I get a lot of stuff for free.
Okay. And the free versions are just...
No, I don't get the free version. I get the paid version for free.
Oh,
Nudge, nudge.
all right,
Nudge, nudge.
good.
We're Jericho. People like to work here. Yes.
Is that what you were talking about at your meeting before, the Turnitin, is that software also free to us?
No,
or that's-
we pay for that one. That one's expensive, but that one I don't consider AI software because we've been paying for it forever. The only AI software we currently pay for is Chat for Schools. Everything else is on a trial basis or an individual basis. The only thing we're paying for is Chat for Schools. Their full freight is about $62. Now, next year, could be a different discussion, but we'll make sure that if we're not going forward with Chat for Schools, we can pull that, add something else. We generally like to have, a one in, one out policy. So if we're not gonna use the one we've already paid for, we're gonna use something else. But so far, we're just dipping our toe in Chat for Schools. I've been able to visit a classroom or 2 that they've been using it. Very interesting to see it in process.
Mr. Fabree, is
Yes.
this all standard for most schools on Long Island? Are we in the forefront, catching up, or on average?
Well, I think we're at the forefront. Certainly mine. And a great question. So let's talk a little bit about computer technology next year as far as instruction goes. So as I talked about the AI committee already, we are also doing something I mentioned last year in my presentation. We have Leanne Dunkley, who is being referenced again at a board meeting, so I hope she's watching, who does an amazing job doing one-on-one trainings for our staff. She's now visiting buildings and working with them, providing parent square instruction in particular, but really training on anything. And she's been going from room to room, building to building, person to person, doing a phenomenal job. We're expanding our use of the GoGuardian suite. GoGuardian is a really great product, so is ClassLink. Those are two products that we're all in on. GoGuardian it protects our students, it filters their searches, it alerts us if a student is repeatedly searching something problematic in GoGuardian in their suite. It also provides us with EduElastic, which is now Pear Deck Assessment, I think, which is a testing platform that mimics the New York State tests, so kids get a real experience taking that test before they ever sit down for it. I think it's a great product. And we use Pear Deck, which provides web-based apps for instruction. We're also expanding the use of Typing Club and have been doing so. Typing Club should be expanded even additionally next year. Turnitin, which I rather shiftily didn't count in our AI products. It's a great product that scans for plagiarism. It has AI detection capabilities baked into it now. Obviously, they're doing that for free until they can charge us a little bit more for it. It works okay. AI detection right now is a very nascent field. We're very early into it, so it's a good product. We're hoping for it to become a great product sooner rather than later. But as we broach this brave new world, we're in kind of an interesting time. And it's difficult for someone to build a product that reliably can tell if something is AI. So they say their success rate is north of 85%. That's reasonable if that's their opinion. I think 85%, even though there's a lot of room for mistakes in 85%. So we're hoping Turnitin continues to get stronger and better. We continue to use our model schools days through BOCES to provide tech center training. And we'll enter year 3 of doing push-in PD, where we have someone go to the room instead of asking everyone to attend a session somewhere. 500 new Chromebooks purchased, as we talked about. You can view our full SSIP proposal on our website if you're ever curious as to what goes into deciding what we're going to buy, or if you're curious as to what we have to do to tell the state we need something.
So is that money gone, or we have to do budget?
We spent it. No, that's gone. The Smart School Investment Plan was a one-time thing about 11 years ago. And we used half of it, or a little more than half of it, on a Nutanix instance, which is the backup stuff. I just talked about having a refresh. And then we used the rest of it on Chromebooks. I kind of saved it up for a while, knowing that we would need to do a pretty big Chromebook refresher this year. So I just sort of stuffed it under our mattress and used it when I needed it. We are trying to implement something called a NAC, Network Access Control, in the district, where it denies access to anything you plug into the wall. This is another one of those big leaps forward that we're hoping to make, but it's a very time-consuming and costly project. This is probably not something that will be knocked out in a year or even 2 years. It's an extensive project, but it's something we're getting underway as of next year.
Will that prevent students from using VPNs?
Nothing on earth will ever fully prevent students from using VPNs, because what happens is they're not even using proper VPNs. They're going to a website. It's so frustrating. So the way that we do this is I look at browsing histories and I find when kids start hitting a particular site a lot, and I block that site. It's a perfect example of a game of whack-a-mole. I find it, I block it, they find a better one. I block that one, they find an even better one. So the VPN game, unless, which we have talked about, unless we restricted and made URLs whitelist only, i.e. you can only visit a site that we whitelist, there's really no way to stop them entirely. We do our best. It's just a...
But that's not what Arada...
No, that's a different thing.
Okay.
No.
I'm sorry, could you just go back to one
Sure.
slide? So it says, they provide funding that will cover the majority of the sourcing costs. Why?
Oh, E-Rate's a fund for that. It's a New York State thing that they provide us with money for telecommunications projects. They don't provide all the money; they provide some of the money. Our project, as I mentioned before, just so you know, it came in very high as far as the pricing goes. So we're working now on chipping away at that and getting it to a more reasonable place. Anything else on this? All right. So that's really it. This year or next year, we're still going to be focused on AI. We're always focused on cybersecurity. I would say those are the kind of the twin poles that are keeping me up at night right now, implementing AI effectively and making sure the district stays secure. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your presence. Appreciate you all.
Mr. Brandon, before you go off the slide, obviously there's $1,030,000, and that falls under the 2610 code or something like that. Then why, like, if you look at this, you got a subtotal of 3450, and then you have a total for total instructional media of 4.44 million.
Oh, it must have included
It's from the 2610,
Yeah.
which is, well, why is that
it shouldn't have,
together?
I should have stopped it before it got to total instructional media.
Thank you.
My apologies. But on the BOCES code, that's increasing, and what we try to do is purchase as much technology-related items through BOCES, because we do get significant aid the following year. We're about 50-60% aidable in BOCES. And I spoke so long I need another break, so I'm gonna turn it over to John Mankiewicz to talk about athletics.
Thank you very much. So our athletic program continues to grow. We have 32 varsity teams at the high school, 16 junior varsity, and then 2 that are considered JV9, JVB, which are truly mostly freshman teams. Our middle school programs, we have 30 teams. 8 of them are separate 7th and 8th grade teams, so there's 2 teams there. And then we have 14 7th and 8th combined teams. And I'll show you later in the slides where we do try to separate those whenever possible to create opportunities for our students. There we go. Okay, so our high school offerings, you can see the fall for next year is pretty much status quo. Badminton, we have varsity and JV, cross country, our boys and girls is co-ed team, but they run separately. We are very happy to have football back at Jericho at the varsity and JV levels. Okay, boys soccer is one of those teams where we're able to offer a freshman team. We are one of only 2 schools that can offer freshmen, so a lot of times that team will end up playing in an open slot where a school may not have a JV, so they'll play in that. Sometimes it's also a team where you can have 10th graders on it, and we try to give kids that opportunity if we think there's a chance that they'll develop later on. Okay, we give them that opportunity to play. Girls soccer, JV, varsity, swimming is a varsity only. And then we move down tennis, boys volleyball, and girls volleyball. For the winter next year, you're gonna see in the green is something that we're adding, hey, with how successful unified basketball was that we added last year, we are moving on and adding unified bowling. That's gonna be a great program for our special needs children. Everything else will stay the same for the winter season. High school for the spring season next year. This year, we've added crew. We've gone through the process with that and getting kids who are interested. We have 17 student athletes who will be participating this year. And then next year, we're adding girls playing football at the varsity level, along with unified basketball, and you can go down and see how many programs we offer in the spring especially. Okay, our middle school offerings, again, we have a couple of changes here, just a little subtle. After many years of talking to other school districts, we finally have enough that we can start middle school boys badminton. Every time I put out for the girls badminton to the community, they're like, what about boys? And I'm like, we're the only school that is asking for it. So now I think there's gonna be 6 or 7 schools. So what they did was to align the seasons with the high school and the middle school. Girls badminton was formerly in the fall. Okay, they're moving girls badminton to the spring, so that'll be aligned with the high school girls badminton season. And then boys badminton will start in the fall, which aligns with the boys team. So you see teams like girls soccer, where we wrote 7 and 8 and then split when possible. Our goal is always on a big team like that to split and have a 7th grade team and an 8th grade team. Okay, the problem is numbers sometimes. This year we had 24. So when you have 24 kids on a team that puts 11 out, okay, 22 and 28, the numbers don't really work. And we know middle school, the commitments aren't as strong as the high school teams, so we need at least 30, we usually say, to have 15 and 15. So that's what we look for there. When we go down and we look middle school, our boys basketball always has good numbers, girls volleyball always has good numbers, so we're able to keep those split. Same thing with girls basketball and boys volleyball. When we get to the spring, baseball and softball again fall into that category. So last year, parents were asking me why baseball wasn't split. We had 23 kids, because it's just not enough. Knowing that kids are always gonna be missing here and there. I go out to a practice, I never see 23. So we have to really make sure, again, that number needs to be around 30 for us to be able to split to separate teams. Okay, and that is always our goal.
Sorry, one quick thing. Don't we also offer golf?
Not at the middle school level.
Not
No,
at
there's no
school?
middle school
Okay.
golf teams. If a student comes to us and they have a vast experience in golf, we ask for scores from different courses and everything else, okay, we will let them try out. Sometimes kids will come to me and say, hey, I practice a lot of golf. I go, tell me what courses, where do you play? And well, I go to the range with my dad.
Okay, yeah.
That's not the kind of kid we look for. We get kids who have legit scores. A lot of times we will get kids who are very good middle school golfers and they play up on our high school team. There we go. Here's our athletic participation numbers per season. You'll see, okay, in the middle school, numbers are pretty consistent except for that winter 2 season. That's the one season, that's what we're going through right now. It's the least amount of offerings. And that's not us, we would offer whatever there is out there. It's just, that's all that our section and Nassau County is able to offer. So our numbers are pretty consistent there. High school, our numbers are much bigger. Difference between high school and middle school is that winter season is split in 2. Okay, in the middle school level and the high school, it's just one combined season. Sports align a little differently sometimes. So in the fall in the middle school, winter 1 in middle school is girls volleyball, but in high school it's the fall. So sometimes students have to make that decision of what they're gonna pursue, because sometimes they are soccer players and volleyball players in the middle school, and then when they get to the high school, they have to make that decision of what they're gonna choose.
What are the discrete athletes in the high school for the, 1,000 athletes that you have? 1,000 athletes or sports athletes you have, how many students is that?
So out of that, we looked it up last year, and it was approximately 600 student athletes participate on at least one sport. There we go. So as we went over program additions, looking back to 2023, it was unified basketball, we added JV badminton. This year it was crew and the full return of football, and next year we're adding a lot. So we're going with middle school boys badminton, girls flag football, and unified bowling. Okay. Facility enhancements over the last few years, working with Michael Hahn and Victor, okay, we've made some great enhancements in our facilities, the turf field, okay, the Sam Springer gym renovation, tennis courts, okay. Moving forward with that, okay, we're looking to add bleachers on the far side of the football team. I know a lot of our parents will be happy that they won't have to share our bleachers with fans from the other schools. And we're looking at the field house renovations in there. The walls will be repainted, the drop curtains, some of them have rips and everything, those are gonna be redone. We're putting a sound system in there. Currently there is no sound system, so when they do testing, they gotta run speakers all over. So we're looking to brighten that up, and the wall padding will be redone, so it's not that oil gold yellow, it'll be navy in there.
Are you doing the floor or no?
No, the floor is not necessary. We did the floor right before COVID. It was sanded down to bare wood, and that floor is in great shape.
And the stadium bleachers are gonna be like the home team bleachers, are gonna be nicer, not as, what are they,
Smaller, it won't have
is like the wood
the
planks also, or
space.
is it gonna be?
No, it'll be aluminum, or steel, whatever they're constructed of.
Anodized aluminum.
Anodized aluminum.
And do you know the cost for these?
For everything altogether, I think it was about 250,000, that included the wall padding,
For the 2 projects, yeah, the 250.
everything that.
That also
John mentioned.
includes, we're going to, when we did Sam Springer, we didn't redo the wall padding in there. So we're gonna save money by just recovering them. The foam in there is still good. We had the company come in and look at all the elementary schools, the wall padding in their gyms. So some of those we're able to recover and do it cheaper, and there's a couple where they just need to be totally replaced.
And it's not something included in the proposition because the projects are relatively small, they don't require plans and specifications to go up to the state, so that's why it's not included as part of the proposition. You got it pointed to.
There we go. Okay, and just some highlights over the last, probably 10 years. We are a New York State Scholar Athlete School of Distinction for 19 consecutive years, well on our way to our 20th. And what that means is they look at 75% of your roster, and that means 75% of your roster has over a 90 average. So we are the only school district in New York State to have a streak like this. Our boys soccer team, we're very known for that, 4 New York State championships in the last 10 years. We've had All-Americans in soccer, track and field, and diving. Rachel Yang was here before the board. She was a two-time New York State champion just recently. Her brother is upstate right now. He'll be competing in the state diving championship starting tomorrow. We've won Long Island championships in soccer, fencing, badminton, and golf. Boys badminton won their 7th consecutive Nassau County championship, and they will be competing to win their 3rd Long Island championship in the spring. And then we've, have countless numbers of all county individuals and county champions and all state honors for our teams. And that's athletics.
Thanks, Doug. And these are the budget numbers year over year. The most significant increase is contractual services for professional, and that is primarily because of the crew. That's what we added new. That's not something we're doing internally. It gets contracted out to Oyster Bay.
Oyster Bay Garden Community.
Okay. All right, now I'm going to turn it over to Lorianne Savino and Castell Stone to talk to us about the transportation department. I'll do it. I know.
Awesome. Thank you, Victor. Thank you to the Board of Ed for having us. Thank you to administration. Always excited to talk about the yellow school bus. This will be my last time talking about it, so 33 years later, and off I go. So this slide demonstrates what it takes to do what we do for our kiddos every day. We have myself, the Director of Transportation, 2 dispatchers, one that opens the school day and one that closes the school day. Our hours are from 6:30 a.m. until 4:30 p.m. Sometimes later when needed. We do run our late buses far beyond that, but we're available 24/7 by cell phone, so that's never really an issue with the late buses. We run with 16 full-time drivers, meaning they do 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the afternoon. You might see them in and around the school buildings because they also work in the cafeteria, the kitchen, and high-touch wipe downs. So they're very, very busy for us in the community. We love them. We're hoping to add one more for next year. We do anticipate student enrollment going up a little bit. We're a little tight this year, so adding one will be really ideal for us. Currently, we're running with 2 mechanics. Keith is our head mechanic, and Eric works under him. They're very, very busy also. They manage 20 Jericho school buses, 17 facility support equipment, snow removal equipment, turf equipment, admin cars, and then we have 3 IMAs that they also handle, where we have 29 additional buses that come in. They have a 100% DOT pass rate, and they've carried this for years, and they're super proud of it. What happens is when DOT comes in and they look for situations with school buses that need to be remedied, we have always passed with 100%, so we can be very, very proud of that.
I just want to mention, you see at the bottom there, it says mechanic / bus driver new. As Lorianne said, we have the 2 gentlemen that currently are mechanics, and it's the same 2 gentlemen from 10 years ago, and 10 years ago we had about 3 or 4 buses, and now we have
4.
1.
Right.
So there's been a significant increase in our equipment without increasing the staff, and at this point, we want to add a new mechanic, and they will also be a bus driver in case we're in a pinch and we need to have an extra driver.
So that's not the +1 under FT drivers, this is just sort of a floating driver?
No, it's not a floating driver, it's going to be a 3rd mechanic who will also be able to drive a bus in case we're in a pinch and we need an additional
So we're
driver
gonna
out
have
on
3
the road.
mechanics, so we're really having 3 mechanics?
Correct.
And Sam, all of our support staff, our dispatchers and current mechanics are all on the driver roster, so they can all fill in a punch when necessary. I am not on the roster, as SED does not recommend for the supervisor to be on the driver roster, but I could drive in a pinch also. We do offer universal busing in Jericho, which is something else that I am very proud of. This is something that actually drew me to Jericho. Not all school districts offer universal busing, and it's something that we can all be very proud of. That means that a school bus is very important to our community, and we know that kids are safest on a school bus to and from school. So all students, 3,300, and what did you say, 55 for next year, will have a bus ride to and from school. So we can be very proud of that. We have 70, yes?
I just wanted to know, do you know what the percentages of ridership? like in the buses? You know, I know that a lot of kids get.
It depends if it's raining or if it's really nice.
On a nice day.
Well, ideally, our elementary buses are full most days. Our high school is the lowest amount of ridership, and middle school falls in between. No problem.
But again, we have to assume that every student will be riding the
I
bus.
understand.
Just want to make sure the people out there.
The elementary routes generate how many buses we put in service every year. Every route has an elementary school attached to it.
They don't start off spoiled, they get spoiled later on.
Yeah. All right, so we have 78 students that are enrolled in private parochial school. For those 78 students, there are actually 30 private schools that we're transporting to this year. So that's also something we can be very proud of. The majority of our kids stay in district, so that
That's
means that
probably
we're
the
offering really
lowest
good.
number I've seen since I've been here, 78 students.
I think we were at 121 when I arrived 12 years ago, yeah, so that's great. Out of district, our out of district enrollment comes from our pupil personnel. They send us those children. We have 7, we just increased by 2, by the way. We actually go to 9 programs, and that changes throughout the year depending on the student's needs. So we have 9 of those programs that we're transporting to currently. We also transport to our BOCES vocational programs, fine arts programs. We do an additional about 1,000 trips a year. Thank you very much, John Mankiewicz, you keep us very busy. And those trips would include athletics, music department, competitions, anything outside of the academic day, we would transport those students. We also transport midday, when Jamie was talking about the life skills programs and the work programs, we also transport those students as well.
Good evening, thanks for having me. These are the 2 budget codes that comes out of our transportation department. 5510 is a contractual service that includes bus parts, routing software, two-way radio, and a GPS system. SED mandates all the bus drivers and school attendants to undergo training every year. We have over 60 classroom aides who also train to ride the school bus. We provide fuel and premises for all the school buses, facility vehicles. We also have a wet contract with First Student where we drop over 34,000 gallons of fuel. These gallons of fuel are calculated by the route miles. The 5540 budget code, First Students is our sole contractor at this time. What makes it ideal is having a sole operating single point of contact. It allows us more oversight and flexibility in bus service. This also makes us a premier district with a contractor. First Student buses and vans are contracted by the hour. We have a 5, 6, 7, and 8 hour buses. We identify these as line buses. These line buses are assigned to all 5 public school, private school, and special education school. The per pupil contract provides service for those few schools that we cannot tie into the line buses. The location bell time do not coincide with the bell times. These students could share the bus with neighboring districts and or schools.
This slide represents what we're running right now. Currently, as Costello mentioned, we have line buses. We have 18 line buses with First Student, 28 van line buses. We have 3 per pupil contracts that we're running this year, and we have 16 in-district runs. We do not anticipate a large change in how we're running our transportation. We do hope to add 1 more First Student driver for next year. This is one of my favorite slides because it shows our drivers here taking a photo op with us. These drivers can be assigned to any one of these schools or all of these schools on any given day. Well, actually 180 days of the year, right? Or 86, is it 186? Something like that, yeah. So they start the day with a middle school route. They roll right into an early high school route, and elementary, as I mentioned, they will have an elementary route, and then high school. Where their time allows, we'll plug in a special ed school or a private parochial school. If the time allows, they can also cover those schools for us as well. And then there's after-school stuff that they cover. This year, we're running 423 daily trips for the home-to-school services.
All First Student bus and Jericho buses are equipped with cameras inside and outside. The cell phone camera was designed to safeguard the students when they're entering or exiting the bus. We're still waiting on the town of Oyster Bay to sign the final document. All the buses are ready to go.
So the program is not fully operational, it's operational, but it's not implemented, or I don't.
It hasn't been activated, but we're ready to go. We spoke last week. The town of Oyster Bay is still holding out on the final signatures.
So they're not expected anytime, there's no expected date.
They did not give me one, Sam. Yeah, we've been on them about it.
Okay, these are the equipment we hope to purchase for the upcoming school year. It's good practice to have a second lift bus in case the assigned bus encounters problem. We also can assign this bus if the student suffer from injuries. We would need this bus to transport the student. Lastly, we plan on using both lift bus for the summer program. I see 2 passenger buses needed as the student population is increasing, and we anticipate having another driver for the upcoming school year. Currently, our mechanics and bus drivers are climbing 12-foot ladders to clean the top of the school buses. That put them in danger, and put our staff in danger.
And we're gonna show you a 30-second video of that piece of equipment.
These are the things that excite me.
How much is this?
About 30.
Yeah, about 35,000.
And that's better than just building an overhang on the buses department.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
30.
And it is also mobile. You could put it away when it's winter.
How many days would you have to use it this year?
We would have used it twice this year.
And the life expectancy of the thing is forever?
Yeah. And the fact that we can store it and put it away is also beneficial. So it's not out in the elements for the whole year.
So you just bring it out when the weather's poor.
Yeah, yes,
That can accommodate every bus, the buses are standard width, not standard.
yes.
And you lowered the micro.
We do get concerned, especially now that we have 20 buses, the people climbing ladders, it's really not a safe situation. Understood.
It's also against the law for us to have snow-covered roofs with school buses. I don't know if you know that with your vehicles. You should be cleaning off your rooftops here. So for school buses, it's against the law, so we really try to make sure that they're as safe as possible for our kids. And the last thing I want to talk about is our cooperative services. We've had this going for a few years now. We're super excited about it. Franklin Square, Herrick's, and Port Washington bring us 29 of their vehicles to be inspected and serviced. Again, they fall into that 100% DOT rate, so we're really excited about that. They did signal to our mechanic that they'll be adding more buses this year to their fleets. So again, another reason why we'd hope to have a mechanic / bus driver added to the staff for next year.
So I'm sorry.
Is it ever challenging to dovetail these cooperative services into the maintenance for our increasing fleet size?
So are you saying, does our stuff suffer from bringing
No,
their
I'm not
stuff
saying,
in?
I'm not saying suffer, but I mean, I imagine just from an operational standpoint, trying to coordinate bringing in these buses when you're dealing with a fleet that, seems to be growing in size here.
Yeah.
Is this something that we would continue to do?
Well, we started the conversation last year about the concerns of the workload compared to the folks that are doing it. And this year was the year that, I went to Victor and said, we're ready, we gotta make it happen.
So hire another mechanic.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
But
And if
it's-
if 2 or 3 years from now, it gets to a point where if we think our fleet is gonna suffer at any point, we will reduce this.
Yeah, or we're just, we have this infrastructure is of such a size that, we're not gonna start building additional bays to take care of other. you know.
In total revenue, I would say it's about $60,000 or $70,000 a year.
About,
Gross, that's gross revenue,
I'm sorry?
gross?
Yes.
thank you, Victor.
You're welcome.
So I don't know if you know the impact that transportation has on athletics. If you talk to your friends in other districts, they're gonna tell you the nightmares that they face every day, getting their teams to different locations because they can't get buses till 4:30, 5 o'clock. So Lori Ann, along with the help of Victor, obviously, and the Board of Ed, has done a phenomenal job. We don't have bus problems here after school for athletics. Our buses are here at 3:30, okay, and our teams get to where they need to be on time. We're the only school district. When I ask other athletic directors at meetings, I'm like, 'cause a lot of our games don't start till 5 because of these problems. And I say, do we still need to do this? Are there still problems out there? And they're like, yes, the problems are not going away. So I just want to thank Lori Ann, as we all know she's retiring, and thank her for all her help with athletics and all she's doing.
Very nice of everyone, sir. Okay, getting to the budget numbers, I'll point out a couple of obvious things. You'll see salaries increasing significantly, and at the same time, we reduce the contract buses. We have been adding drivers every year. You can see what we spent last year. I think this year will be closer to probably 1.2, 1.3, and we budgeted 1.4 for next year. As far as the contract buses, we have been bringing a lot of routes back to the district. I think we're gonna flatten out at this point moving forward, but with that, we're able to reduce the contract code by about $200,000. Any questions? All right, employee benefits. A lot to talk about here. So the two retirement systems, the top one is the employee retirement system that is for non-instructional personnel. The second one is a teacher's retirement system for instructional personnel. Teacher's retirement went up, I wouldn't say significantly, but certainly the employees' retirement system did go up significantly. It went up about 15 to 20%. Again, the health insurance, we've been talking about that for the last couple of years. That's the second one from the bottom. That is an over $1.3 million increase. Debt service and interfund transfers, you'll see we increase the interest on the tax anticipation notes. That's a short-term borrowing we do every year because of the interest rates. Simultaneously, we reduced the transfer to school lunch down to $50,000. I think from a fiscal standpoint, the school lunch program is starting to become profitable. And I don't think we're gonna use $250 this year, which is great news. And I'm gonna leave a dollar amount there every year, and I think 50,000 is probably a safe number for now, and we'll revisit it annually. Questions?
What's our total cost number for next year? When I went through the presentation, I came up with a number of around 141 million, but I know that there, at least, the only double count I know was the 1,030,000 that we talked about, that shows up under technology, but also shows up under 2610.
Right. I remember the percentage. It's a 3.43% increase.
In total.
3.48.
3.43% in total cost over the 23-24 budget number.
Correct.
That's in your slide.
For the next one, yeah. And I'll give that to
I have no
you.
patience, so that's fine.
I'll give it to you at the end of next week. I think this year's was 135.
Yeah.
So it's close to 140, yeah. Any other questions? All right, so the next meeting is Wednesday, March 13th. That's when we'll discuss the revenues and expenditures as a whole and summarize it, and then the board adoption on the 21st.
Where does the purchase of the new bus come in? Where does that show up? Is that on the, I just didn't look.
The second line from the top, 310,000.
So that, okay, so that's most, so the equipment is just the new bus, that's the only equipment we buy, really?
It's the two buses and the snow scraper.
And the technical support stuff that goes on the
Yeah,
buses, GPS.
which is my, yeah, that's a few thousand.
So that 310 is 2 buses.
It's the
Snow scraper.
wheelchair lift bus,
Uh-huh.
it is the 44-passenger bus, and the snow scraper, and some, you know, the cameras that go along with the bus, some of the additional items.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right, thank you very much, everyone, I appreciate it. We'll see you on the 13th.